Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow Lakeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And while you're at it, please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions due north to our extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or decide to do something silly, stupid, or dumb, I've given Lakeena full power to give you fools the beer lamb beer boot, even though it's almost Halloween.
Toodles.
Yeah, we ain't got time for tricks or treating on this show. But anywho, before we begin, we must remind you that Sports Zone Chicago is also available on Roku TV. That's right, so celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC. Just head up to Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we will provide what we can. Well, we do what we can here on Second City Sports. Of course, we got our NFL Power Hour. Of course, we'll talk about Bears and Chargers. Yippee. And the rest of Week 8 slate in the NFL. Cleese says and does. Some more surprises in store. Also, too, we'll talk some Bulls and NBA. And a mixed weekend for the Bulls. We'll also talk some World Series, a pivotal Game 3 tonight, and college football as well. But first, because, not really because we want to, but because we have to.
20 passes, 16 rushes. Inbound score. You're going to see that imbalance as well. What a move by DJ Moore to get away. You see some of why he is.
Yeah, he just breaks tackles.
Inside right here with Foreman into the secondary. And chopped down by Derwin James.
Wake him up.
Agent goes to the sideline. It is held on to. Against the Raiders, he had 6 sacks in Week 4. Late pressure comes. Major throws it to Robert Tonyan, the former Green Bay today, and all those scores. But the Chargers, if healthy, I'm curious your thoughts as Cole Kmet makes the catch. Fakes, trying to get it to Eckler. The Bears will read all of that. Justin Jones, and the ball comes out. And it looks like Chicago got on it. T.J. Edwards, the last in there. And the Bears come up with their first turn. Drake May for North Carolina. Kmet on the edge gets bumped. Heavy contact over there. Kmet keeps going. Gets
Unload on and go get some free agents as well.
Agent in the middle to Kmet again to the 12-yard line. Started mentioning 3rd and 10. Able to get it to Darrington Evans, looking for his second touchdown of the night. Chargers on the sideline. Inside run. Evans got the first down. He's down at the 1-yard.
Right down the line. There we go. I feel good about that.
That one looks to be in for the touchdown.
In the highlights, where we actually able to find some highlights from that was from NBC. The Bears lose to the Chargers 30-13 on Sunday Night Football. They're now 0-8 in their last primetime games. Also, I think Matt Eberflus, 5-26, Sid, in his record with the Bears. Justin Herbert threw for 298 yards and 3 TDs. Also, Tyson Bagent had 2 interceptions and 232 throwing yards and such. Sid, grief, I'm at a loss for. Well, you know what? Actually, we weren't really surprised by this. I mean, us and our girl Christine Mack, KXRB, we all picked the Chargers. We thought that they were going to cover. They did not. They got their butts kicked. I mean, if it wasn't for the Chargers selling for field goals, that score would have been a whole lot worse. I guess there's some consolation, but I'm trying to find some positives, Sid. But I really couldn't find. I'll get to the NBC coverage and in our Suds and Des because I got a little bone to pick with them about that. But Sid, I'll let you have the floor. Tell us your thoughts about last night's game.
I'm gonna do something I don't think I haven't done on the show, whether it's via this podcast, Zoom, or I don't think even going back to our days when we did the show back down on State Street in downtown Chicago. Can I negotiate a deal with you, Lakeena?
Okay.
Is there any way possible that I can get those 2.5 hours back from yesterday? Is there any way? Do you know? Do you know?
I wish. Good Lord, that was terrible.
All right. So I guess that's not possible.
Yeah, but remember, NBC could have flexed out this game 2 weeks ago, but they decided not to. So, sorry, America.
Well, since that's not going to happen, here's what's going to happen. Those 2.5 hours, unfortunately, I can never get back. Here's what I saw last night. Offense, trash. Defense, disappeared. Special teams, nothing really special. And it's just, this is I heard someone say last night, oh, the Bears are going through growing pains. No, this is pitiful. Your defense, here we go, Lakeena, your defense. Not 1, 2 quarterback hits. Sacks, a big fat 0. Offensively, rushing touchdowns, 1. And that was Tyson Bagent. Congrats to him. But you got it not on the first try, but the second try on the touch push, you got it. Yay! It was still that from you. You couldn't score on the first touch push, but you did on the second one. You barely got in. How many passing touchdowns, Lakeena? 1? If that. 1?
1. Mm-hmm.
1? Okay. As I said last year, and I'll say it again, we do have a tight end in Cole Kmet. He had 10 catches last night to lead the team. But outside of that, there was nothing that bedazzled me last night, Lakeena. And let me just say this for my third point as far as the offense is concerned. Velus Jones, I know he was a high draft pick from last year. Can we cut him, please? Can we? I know that's not going to solve all the Bears' problems, but can we start by sending some strong messages? You need to go, young man. Can we? He dropped an easy touchdown last night, even though the ball was underthrown.
I mean, no passing touchdowns for Tyson Page. And look, I know everyone wants to say, well, it was his second start, blah, blah, blah. But let's remember, though, I mean, yes, the Chargers defense is near the tail end. I think they're 26 or 27 overall, but they still got guys on that squad. They still got Khalil Mack. They still got Joey Bosa. They still got Derwin James, who had an interception that kind of basically sealed the game. And look, that game felt so long, though. I mean, I wish that they would just. There were the times where I wish, those last, couple of scores that the Chargers had would have been touchdowns. Just put the game out of our misery, please. I'm begging y'all. But this was everyone said it was going to be the easy win for the Bears. This is a winnable game, blah, blah, blah. Let's remember that the Chargers actually were leading, 2 of their losses probably should have been wins for the Chargers. And and look, I know that there have been, they've been as consistent and such, but you've had injuries, but when they have it, they have it. And this is a get-right game for them. Now, as far as the Bears are concerned, I mean, geez, I know TJ Edwards actually was really good. He led the team in tackles, 9 solo tackles. Yay, whoop-de-doo, good for you. But there wasn't really too much. I mean, Justin Herbert was actually upright. 0 sacks for that defense against Justin Herbert. They made. I mean, my goodness, I know they don't have Mike Williams, but they still got they were able to stop him on the ground, but he actually had 94 receiving yards and a touchdown catch. I mean, Keenan Allen got his touches. Quinn Johnson got his touches. So, I mean, okay, yippee. All right. So, I got nothing, honestly. That game just felt like, I'm sorry, America. Look, NBC could have, flexed this game out. They decided not to. Realize the Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago, Lakeena, McGee, Sidney, with you recapping Bears and Chargers. I have nothing, Sid. I got nothing. Please, come on, jump in.
Yeah, a couple more things before we bail out for the bottom of the hour break. Also about that defense, Lakeena, especially at the beginning of the game. I don't know about you, but that Bears defense was screened so many times.
Yep.
So many wide receiver screens that I thought I was watching in the late 90s, early 2000s Bears with Kate McClown at quarterback and Gary Crone, the offensive coordinator. That was terrible. But the Chargers knew what they were doing. You mentioned Austin Eckler. He was a beneficiary of those screens. Josh Palmer, who got injured early in the game, he came back in the game and made an impact. But it seemed to me that the Chargers knew what they were doing on offense. We knew what they were going to bring on defense, and that's what happened last night. But offensively for the Chargers, they played their part to perfection, and the Bears defense looked lost, especially on those screens, and that's what really cost them the game on that side of the ball. But this team regressed after what happened last week against the Las Vegas Raiders at home. I know some of you Bears fans wanted Tyson Bagent to be your version of Kurt Warner. It was going to happen. It looks like it's not going to happen now with the return of Justin Fields for this upcoming week against the New Orleans Saints. We'll see what happens throughout the week coming up. But Lakeena, let's be honest here. I know Justin Fields wants to get back on the field to prove that he's a franchise quarterback, but let's be honest here. Would you play him right now? Right now? I wouldn't give him another week or two.
No, but I wouldn't, especially the way that O-line. I know they've had injuries, but that O-line was not very good last night. And the defense, the Chargers only got to Bagent once. And Bosa got that sack. He had a nice little introduction with him to the NFL. But it kind of felt like that Bears squad went back to being exactly what they are. And I feel like that Raiders game, there was a mirage. Look, the only guy they had to worry about last week was Max Crosby, and they were able to contain him. That defense for the Chargers actually, yes, their stats have not been very good this year, but they actually got guys on that team, and I named them for you guys earlier, just a few minutes ago. So for me, I think this is just kind of just showed that look, the Bears are exactly what they are. They're not bad enough, but they're not good either. So I think for people who were hoping that maybe this could be like a sort of a run, it just shows you why they're not ready. Know your personnel, as I always say. KYP, know your personnel.
Yeah, it looks like the Bears are on another run towards the top pick in the NFL draft, next to the one they have with the Carolina Panthers. All right, Lakeena, I'll do something that we both need to do is take a nice cool break from the Bears before we blow our heads off. We love you guys, so we're going to give you all this heat, as the kids were saying, this great football content to wrap up the rest of this hour as you're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago. Week 8 recap is around the corner. Contending team loses a tough game at home, while another one gets tested from start to finish on the road in an ugly and controversial finish to the Jets and Giants. That and a whole lot more as you're listening to the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. Don't move a muscle.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
And welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. You follow McGee on the Twitter, X, and Key again, the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG, SCK80. Once again, it's SCK80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you.
If you want to vent about the Bears in charge, we're not going to talk about them anymore today, thank goodness. But if you guys feel free to comment if you want to let out your grievances. Now, let's talk about the rest of the Week 8 slate, Sid. Go to South Beach first, as the Dolphins have virtually no trouble with the Patriots 31-17. Tua Tagovailoa had threw for 324 yards, 3 TDs. Mac Jones on the flip side for the Patriots threw for only 161 yards and 2 TDs. Raheem Mostert had a rushing touchdown, but it's your buddy Tyreek Hill, Sid. He had 112 receiving yards at a touchdown.
Give me 30 plus fantasy points. Yay!
I know he did. And Jalen Waddle led the way for 121 receiving yards and a TD there. The Dolphins really no trouble. I know that to the Patriots they did keep it close early on, but the Dolphins kind of kicked it into gear and kind of kept the Patriots at bay.
Yeah, I watched the majority of this game yesterday via this computer screen. Shout out to our good buddy Spiro Diaz who called this game yesterday for CBS. But as you mentioned, the Dolphins offensively, the air attack was pretty solid. Their running game wasn't as stellar as it needed to be, but they did what they had to do. Raheem Mostert had 46 yards and a rushing touchdown off of 13 carries. But also, too, Jalen Waddle had a great game for the Dolphins yesterday. 7 catches, 121 yards in a score. Now, the Patriots defense did step up early in that first quarter, and early in that fourth quarter, they picked up Tua one time, and they forced a fumble in another one. So the Patriots defense, as I said before, they're young and they are hungry, but they're nothing to write home about offensively. But the Dolphins took advantage of that, and they walked away with a 2-touchdown advantage.
Yeah, the defense did sack Mac Jones 3 times, and Jalen Ramsey. I think it's going to take him a little bit to kind of get it going, but he was actually pretty solid in his first game back. So we'll see what happens with that Dolphins team. The Battle of New York. I was able to watch a little bit of this game, via this computer screen here for me. The Jets edged out the Giants 13-10 in overtime. Zach Wilson 240 yards throwing and a touchdown. pass. Tyron Taylor actually had to, get out of the game. I know, I think it was a concussion or ribs. I think it was ribs. Tommy DeVito from Illinois, he, did okay in his first go at it. I mean, he did have a rushing touchdown, but there really wasn't. It was kind of like a defensive struggle, I guess. Wilson was sacked 4 times. DeVito was sacked twice along with Taylor. I think it was that hit by Taylor that actually knocked him out. So it was actually a very ugly game. But you said something happened during the game that that some Giants fans were kind of left scratching their heads.
Well, after Graham Gano missed the field goal, which would have given the Giants a 13-7 lead, Zach Wilson and the New York Jets were driving to tie the game with the field goal, which they eventually did, force the game into overtime. But there was a questionable pass interference call. Yeah. Lakeena, I don't want to go and say that these referees are terrible because they're not, but the officiating in the NFL, we all know there's been a problem for a long while now, and especially given the era that we're in right now, it's all about offense and defense, and with the hard hits and things along that line. There's really not a fine line like it was back in the day. But I just found it to be very interesting with that questionable call yesterday, which, like I said, it benefited the Jets, and Zach Wilson did clock the ball in time, leaving them with 1 second left to tie the game and go into overtime. But the rest of that game yesterday, Lakeena, like I said, I did turn to it a couple of times, but it was less much to be desired. I know it was raining throughout the majority of the game, but it was very much less to be desired. And I know that CBS Sports' Tiki Barber, it was a rare home game for him. I know he probably is going to like to say on his afternoon radio show later today, but yeah, that game overall was wasn't much to write home about. And you saw why those two teams are terrible.
Yeah, just not a, the Jets go to 4-3, and it was very not an acquired taste, as they say. So not a very good game to watch. I kind of kept this game in the background on the computer here. But going to Pittsburgh now, Chicago did get this game on the CBS Chicago affiliate. The Jaguars beat the Steelers 20-10, and Trevor Lawrence threw for 292 yards and a TD. Kenny Pickett was not out of the game early. Mitch Trubisky had to come in, throw an interception on the opening drive. Seen those more on a couple occasions here in Chicago. But it was really, Travis Etienne. I've been pronouncing his name for years since he was at Clemson, so I guess. But he had 79 rushing yards there and had a touchdown catch from Lawrence. So again, not the prettiest. I know weather was a little bit of a factor because it did rain a little bit in Pittsburgh early on. So Steelers couldn't get anything on offense, but the Jaguars did just enough to win this game.
Yeah, the Jaguars defense stepped up big. You mentioned knocking Kenny Pickett out the game and picking up Trubisky once. On the flip side for Jacksonville, they overcome 2 early turnovers in the red zone to pull out the 20-10 victory. Trevor Lawrence, you mentioned, throwing for 292 yards and a touchdown. He hasn't really gotten it going yet, Lakeena, and it's remarkable that this Jaguars team is 6-2 overall, 4-0 on the road, including 2 victories in London. It's remarkable for what this Jaguars team is doing this year, and Trevor Lawrence hasn't gotten it going yet. Hopefully, with the second half of the season approaching, as we approach the month of November, Trevor Lawrence can turn up, as the kids would say, and start to play better. Like you mentioned, Travis Etienne, he had that long touchdown reception yesterday to kind of break the game open offensively for the Jaguars. They were struggling up to that point, but if you're the Jaguars, you're happy for this win, but you have to be concerned a little bit about Trevor Lawrence's performance. I know he's battling a right knee injury. I know he's getting a little bit better, but you still have to be concerned with his performance.
Definitely look out for too as the season goes on. So we'll see what happens with the Jaguars. They go to 6-2, oddly enough. So go figure with that one. Now, staying in the AFC South, we go to Nashville, and the Tennessee Titans wore their old Houston Oilers unis. The days of when playing in the Astrodome.
They had the Oilers painted in the end zone.
Yeah, and everything. They had the logo, everything. So, but I think they said the NFL played like a season. Well, it's a little bit more complicated. But they did beat the Falcons 28-23. Will Levis in his first 11th, I should say, his first start. The rookie from Kentucky threw for 238 yards and 4 TDs. Taylor Heinicke had to come in for Desmond Ritter, who just wasn't very good. Only threw for 71 yards. Talking about Ritter, but Derrick Henry had 101 yards, and it was Mr. DeAndre Hopkins who caught 3 of those TD passes from one Mr. Levis. So what do you think? I mean, Titans go to 3 or 4, I should say. Unfortunately for Atlanta, those are kind of their chance to kind of like put a little bit of distance between themselves and the NFC South, but they weren't able to do that.
How dare I pick the Tennessee Titans against the Tennessee Titans, Lakeena? I thought this was the week they were going to fall flat on their face because Ryan Tannehill didn't get the start. But as I said before, you think you had the Titans figure out, they surprised you, and that's what happened yesterday. Don't forget Derrick Henry as well. Ran 22 times for 101 yards, and so the Titans had that ground game on lock. On the flip side for Atlanta, you mentioned that offense didn't wake up until the fourth quarter with their 2 touchdowns. Congrats to rookie running back Bijan Robinson out of Texas for the Falcons. He had his first career rushing touchdown, hopefully one of many more for Mr. Robinson. But outside of that, the Titans had this game under control from start to finish.
Yeah, they really did. So maybe they may have found something with Levis. Who knows? But there was a great moment with him and hugging his family after the game. That was really cool. After everything he went through, from thinking that he was going to go in the top 5, going all the way down to the early second round, going to Tennessee. But at least so far, he's looked really good. So we'll see if he can keep it up. Now, staying in the NFC South, speaking of there, you got Carolina beating Houston. In this case, it was NFC South beating the AFC South team. 15-13. No, that's not a typo, folks. Bryce Young threw for 235 yards and a TD. On the flip side for CJ Stroud, struggled a little bit, 140 yards, just couldn't get in the end zone. And it was really the defense, I guess, because despite Young being sacked 6 times, I should say, but they were able just to do he actually made the plays enough plays, either for me to say, to win this game.
The Texans not only had not 1, not 2, but 3 penalties at the end of that game, Lakeena.
Yep.
As the Panthers eventually kicked the game-winning field goal thanks to Eddie Pinheiro, the former Chicago Bear kicker. Yep. The Texans, you mentioned, they couldn't get anything going offensively. Their running game was non-existent. I know Damian Pierce had 46 yards on the day, but they couldn't get the ball in the end zone, in the red zone there. Adam Thielen on the flip side for Carolina had 8 catches for 72 yards. As I said before, Lakeena, Bryce Young looks like he's starting to get a little bit of confidence, but they got to straighten up that offensive line. It looks like for the Panthers, they're not the lone winless team anymore. So they did enough to win the game yesterday. Like I said, Houston shot themselves in the foot on that final drive.
Yeah, that definitely set up the Pinheiro game where, defensively game went defensively for them. So your D'Amico Ryans, you're not very happy with how your defense, played in that last sweet sequence. But good for the Panthers to get their first win of the season, long undefeated. So we'll see if they can build on that. Now, Dallas and the Rams didn't really, I looked at the score like, 17-3. Okay, yeah, this game's over with. And it was 43-20 over the Rams. Dak Prescott threw for 304 yards, 4 TDs. On the flip side for Matt Stafford, he got hurt, threw 162 yards and a TD and interception, but he was knocked out of the game. So Brett Rippon, who is the nephew of Mark Rippon, the Super Bowl champ from Washington, threw for 42 yards. Not too much to write home about. Tony Pollard had 53 rushing yards. CeeDee Lamb had 2 of those 4, I should say, TD passes from Dak, and they're 5-2. There's a nice little showdown with a team we'll be talking about in a little bit in the NFC East. You guys know who we're talking about. But Sid, what do you think about the Cowboys' performance yesterday?
You're talking about the old Phoenix Cardinals. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Lord. They're going to win my that.
But I watched the majority of this game, at least the majority of the first half. I'll be honest about that. Midway through the second quarter, I turned. The Cowboys, it was all about their defense. They had a block punt for safety. They had a pick 6. And like you said, they knocked Matthew Stafford out the game. It wasn't too much that Dak Prescott had to do. He threw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdown passes, as you mentioned. CeeDee Lamb was the man of the hour with 12 catches for 158 yards and 2 scores. The Dallas really didn't need the running game that much. Tony Pollard had 12 carries for 53 yards, but it was all about the defense for the Cowboys, and that set the tone very early. And the Rams had no shot of competing in this game.
No, they really didn't. And, Stafford being out, that didn't help either. So just not a good showing for them. And a nice show for the Cowboys. We'll see if, we'll see that matchup against Philly coming up this Sunday. We'll see. In the NFC North, you got the Vikings beating the Packers 24-10. Kirk Cousins threw for 274 yards and 2 TDs. Unfortunately, though, about still early on in the fourth quarter. He tore his Achilles. It was just confirmed. So now he's done for the year. Alexander Madison had 31 rushing yards. TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison each had a TD catch from Cousins. On the flip side, though, Jordan Love 229 yards, a TD, and an interception. So the Vikings go to back to 504-4, but that Cousins injury is a big concern.
Yeah, the injury to Kirk Cousins is a concern factor for the Minnesota Vikings. In a couple of weeks, Justin Jefferson is supposed to return to the Vikings, their star wide receiver, but unfortunately he won't have his starting quarterback. And so you thought that the Vikings would be in line to make a run. Technically, they still can, but I think it's going to be difficult without Mr. Cousins. On the flip side for Green Bay, I did turn to this game in the fourth quarter. First of all, how dare I pick the Packers on Friday? I guess that's what I get, huh? But Jordan Love and crew, they had a block kick and a field goal kick in the fourth quarter. They got it deep into Minnesota's territory, but they failed to punch it in the red zone. Not once, but twice in that fourth quarter to try to get back in the game. But you would say that this is growing pace for Jordan Love, which I think it is eventually. But Green Bay's running game was non-existent. Your quarterback leads, and talking about Jordan Love, he led the team in rushing with 34 yards. That's just not going to get it done. And when was the last time the Packers looked this bad in Lambeau? I don't think even in 2008 when Aaron Rodgers finally took over as quarterback, they looked this bad in Lambeau.
Yeah, I think they were at 500 at home that year, I believe. Don't quote me, but I think they were at 500. I think so. They weren't that bad, but yeah, I mean, I think they're good grief. I mean, they were just like not very good. I think he had 2 sacks. Talking about Love, he overthrew a couple of guys. They've had injuries as well. So yeah, I mean, might be a loss season for the Packers, unfortunately, going through the growing pains. So we'll get to the Vikings, because I think there is a veteran player that might help them. I will get to that in a second, but let's continue with these scores here. Saints beat the Colts 38-27. Derek Carr threw for 310 yards and 2 TDs. On the flip side, Gardner Minshew had 213 yards and 2 TDs. Taysom Hill was leading rusher, had 2 of those, both those touchdown passes from Carr, the 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Jonathan Taylor rushed for 95 yards, just couldn't get it across the end zone. Rashid Shaheed had 153 of those receiving yards and a TD catch for him. So said it was really like the scoring for the Saints. It just they kind of kept it going.
Yeah, it was whoever had the ball last for a while that was going to end up winning this game. It was the Saints that had the advantage. They didn't turn the ball over yesterday. Like you said, Derek Carr threw for over 300 yards, which was great to see. Rashid Shaheed was the man of the hour for New Orleans. 3 catches, 153 yards in the score. The Colts just didn't have enough to keep up, and their defense really got exposed yesterday.
They did. Carr was really able to have a lot of throws, and was hitting him a lot in those rush packages. So yeah, they were able to we'll see if they can kind of get it going. But that was a really nice win for the Saints on the road. Going to the last game of the noon games, NFC East, you got the Eagles beating the Commanders. I actually watched this game from start to finish. It was back and forth, but in the fourth quarter, the Eagles got it going, scoring 21 points. In the fourth, and was able to put things away. Jalen Hurts threw 319 yards and 4 TDs. Sam Howell also had 4 TDs, but it was really the defense for the Eagles that were able to actually finally stop the Commanders. Oh, Sid went away for a second. We'll see if we get back into it. But yeah, I mean, look, this game here was actually back and forth. Like I said, you thought that maybe it was a nice punch, counter punch for the Eagles and the Commanders. They were trading punch. Like I said, those 21 points that they scored, especially the last couple of touchdowns that kind of put the game away for the Eagles. So this was a nice win for them. They've actually been able to kind of slug it out. Excuse me. Of course, this being a rivalry game against the NFC East, you can definitely kind of the punch, counter punch. So they were able to kind of get it going. And they have a big matchup coming up on Sunday against the Cowboys. As we'll wait for Sid to set back up here in a little second here. But for me, I think this is sort of kind of shows you what this Eagles team, not the prettiest, but they were able to kind of pull it off. There you go, Sid. There you go, Sid.
All right. Sorry about that, folks. With the Philadelphia Eagles, we knew they were going to get tested by the Commanders. The Commanders had their backs against the wall. They actually had their starting quarterback Sam Howell show up yesterday with 397 yards and 4 touchdown passes. But that offensive line has been a problem for the Commanders all season long, and it showed this ugly head, especially in that fourth quarter. And the Eagles went on to score 21 points to basically put that game away. But Brian Robinson Jr. for the Commanders had 10 carries for 59 yards. A.J. Brown had 8 catches for 130 yards and 2 scores. But Devontae Smith, it was actually nice to see him on the score sheet. He had a touchdown catch as well. So Philadelphia, they performed a little bit better yesterday. You mentioned Jalen Hurts with those 4 touchdown passes. It looks like they're starting to get the offensive rhythm together. And if that happens, to go along with that defense has been playing well this year, they could be the top threat again in the NFC.
Yeah, that's 6 straight games for A.J. Brown with at least 125 yards and a touchdown. So joining the likes of Pat Stussel did back in 1966 and Calvin Johnson did in 2012. So for the longest such streak. So nice showing for the Eagles. They're starting to kind of get going now. The defense actually made some plays when they needed to. So that was actually a good spot there. Now going to start with the 3:00 games. The Seahawks hold off the Browns 24-20. Geno Smith threw for 254 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. So it was definitely an up and down day for Mr. Smith. But Kenneth Walker Jr. rushed for 66 yards. Now on the flip side, PJ Walker was sacked 3 times, threw 2 interceptions. Did have a touchdown pass. Like I said, he was sacked twice. Dorian Thompson-Robinson came in. He was 1 for 1, but it really wasn't. The game was pretty much over with after that. So it was actually a defense for the Seahawks to definitely kind of help put this game away for them.
Yeah, it was the Seahawks defense, as you mentioned. They kind of saved the day for them. Geno Smith had 2 bad turnovers early, but bounced back with those 2 touchdown passes. But the Seahawks defense is very active, and they are very hungry and very aggressive. So they're going to get after it, and that's what happened yesterday. The Browns trying to keep up, but when it mattered most, the defense I'm talking about for the Seahawks stepped up big. Amari Cooper on the flip side for the Browns was the only rising star. He had 6 catches for 89 yards, which we mentioned, Lakeena, Seattle. Even though this is not the team of the Legion of Boom from a decade ago, they are still very good. And the reason why they're now 5-2 and 3-1 at home is because of the play of their defense, despite the up and down play of Geno Smith.
Yeah, so they were able to kind of grind it out. And they're actually leading the NFC West right now. We'll explain why in a second. But the Ravens beat the Cardinals 31-24. Lamar Jackson, not his best day, 157 yards passing and a TD, was sacked 4 times, unfortunately. Josh Dobbs on the flip side, 208 yards, 2 TDs, but it was 2 interceptions that kind of kept the Cardinals sort of at bay. So Gus Edwards had 3 rushing TDs. So again, not the prettiest game for the Ravens, but on the road for Arizona team. I know, but there's an Arizona team, they play hard. They know they're tanking. So, but the Ravens actually just enough to win the game.
Let's give a shout out to Trey McBride, the star tight end for the Arizona Cardinals. He had 10 catches for 95 yards in the score. But as you mentioned, Lakeena, we know that the Cardinals are taking, but they play hard and they'll go after it for 48 minutes. They're playing with house money, so they have nothing to lose. So you've seen the best out of the Cardinals so far this year. We all know they're not going to win a lot of games because they don't have enough talent and they don't have star quarterback Kyler Murray. But for the Ravens, they didn't do too much to hurt themselves. Like you said, they got out there with the win.
Yes, they did. Let's go to the AFC West for a second. Probably one of the bigger upsets of the day. You got the Broncos beating the reigning Super Bowl champ Chiefs 24-9. Russell Wilson, only 114 yards passing, but he did throw for 3 touchdowns. Javonte Williams had 85 rushing yards. Jerry Jeudy had one of TD passes. Also, Cortland Sutton as well had a TD catch. On the flip side, though, Pat Mahomes, 241 yards passing, but no TDs. Only 62 total rushing yards for them. The defense actually was sort of the key. They did sack Mahomes 3 times. They, even though Russell Wilson did, get sacked 6 times, but they were able to kind of put the thing together, perhaps break up a lot of streaks we'll get to in our studs and does. But I watched this game on the computer and it's just like, wow, like what's happening here?
And the day before, the city of Denver had 6 inches of snow.
Yep.
Obviously, it wasn't the weather that affected the Chiefs. It was the Broncos defense, as you mentioned. Now, on the flip side, for the Broncos offense, Javonte Williams, they finally have a running game. You mentioned you ran the ball 27 times for 85 yards. Travis Kelce was a big disappointment on the flip side for the Chiefs, 6 catches for 58 yards. Patrick Mahomes, as you mentioned, did not look good. He supposedly had the flu yesterday. He had 2 interceptions, but the Chiefs' offense went backwards yesterday because they couldn't find their number one wide receiver down the field. And you had to give the Broncos credit because, like you mentioned, they were aggressive. It looks like they knew what Kansas City was going to run, and Kansas City was all confused. And at the end of the game, the Broncos decided to troll the Chiefs by playing a Taylor Swift song.
Taylor Swift song at the end of the game. You guys didn't see that. Make sure you check that out. But that was hilarious. But I mean, this broke a lot of streaks for the Chiefs. Ready? Against this is 16 game straight wins against the Broncos. That was tied for the third most for any opponent in NFL history. Also, it's now a 13 division win streak that was tied for the 4th longest by any team since 1970 merger. Also, Pat Mahomes with 29 straight games with a passing TD. That was actually the longest active streak in the NFL. So a lot of streaks were broken yesterday in that win. It also snaps a 5-game losing streak against the Chiefs for the Broncos. So a lot of streaks were broken in that win there, that upset win. So. And last but certainly not least, the reason why I said the Seahawks were now in first place in the NFC West, well, that's because of the Niners lost 3 in a row. They lose to the Bengals 31-17. Joe Burrow threw for 283 yards and 3 TDs. Joe Mixon had 87 rushing yards and a TD. Jamar Chase 100 yards receiving and a TD. On the flip side, Brock Purdy had 2 interceptions, threw for 365 yards. Sid, this is actually the 3rd straight loss for the 49ers. What happened?
Here's what happened. The 49ers defense got shredded once again. I know it's easy to say this now, but my head said to pick the Bengals on Friday, but I went against it and picked against the 49ers because I thought that after losing 2 straight games, the 49ers would show up, especially at home. But Cincinnati was the better team. I was surprised that they got out to a fast start because remember, they had the bye week last week. And so Cincinnati had a time to game plan against the 49ers. But the Cincinnati was the better team yesterday. You mentioned Brock Purdy's 365 yards passing, but I wasn't impressed by him. Those 2 turnovers were doom and gloom for that 49ers offense. And as I said before, early in the year, Lakeena, when Cincinnati struggled, you protect Joe Burrow, you run the ball hard with the Joe Mixon, and you play aggressive defense, and that's what we saw yesterday. The better team won.
Yeah, not having Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams, I think, is definitely hurting the 49ers, and that bye week can't come quick enough because the defense looked really lackadaisical yesterday. So I'm like, okay, I know. Yeah, no, it looks like Burrow, that calf injury looks like he's getting better, but I kind of feel like that defense still just didn't know what to do. Especially, they couldn't look. Talk about Bears and their poor tackling. Good grief, what the hell happened with the 49ers and their tackling? I mean,
same thing. Yeah.
38. They'll only give you 38 points in my fantasy team. Thanks for nothing, 49ers. But that's a whole different conversation. So real quick, your suds and duds, go.
My 3 stars of this: Rashid Shaheed for New Orleans, their wide receiver, 3 catches for 153 yards and a score as the Saints beat the Colts. My second stud will be A.J. Brown of Philadelphia, 8 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns as Philadelphia holds off the Washington Commanders. And my third stud will be, drum roll please, C.D. Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys, 12 catches, 158 yards, and 2 touchdowns as the Dallas Cowboys blow out the Rams in a rare noon start home game.
Yeah, we're a new one there. The Broncos, I'll give it not just their social media people for the trolling of the of them, but that you also to the Chargers social media people for the trolling the Bears, the Starship Troopers. That was
defense didn't do shit.
Exactly. Well, that kind of covered that. Let's see who else. Real quick, I'll say the Carolina Panthers for getting their first win of the season, and Will Levis, I'll give him a stud for his first win as a starter for TDs. Also, too, Kevin Zeitler, who is the veteran guard for the Baltimore Ravens. He's now to the pretty impressive list. He now has a win, at least one win against every team in the National Football League. So that's whatever that happened. That's always a really cool thing. I know they gave him a little bit of I think they gave him the game ball yesterday because of that. I think he joins like a pretty solid. I think it's like he's a 21st, 18th or 19th, somewhere around there, player to have that in his repertoire. So definitely a nice accomplishment for him. He has a Super Bowl ring as well. So really cool. Former guard, of course, I remember from Wisconsin. So a nice accomplishment for him. So congrats to him. And Sid, who are your duds?
3 duds. The Green Bay Packers offense is going 0 for 2 in the red zone in the fourth quarter. My second dud will be Graham Gano of the New York Football Giants, their kicker. Why does it always come down to a kicker? Well, you know why he missed that field goal in the fourth quarter, which would have given the Giants a 6-point lead, but they left the door open for the New York Jets to tie the game, which they did, and eventually they won it in overtime. And my third dud would be that San Francisco 49ers defense.
I'll go further than that. I'll get the 49ers in general, the whole team. I mean, that the offense was not very good. The defense was terrible. The special teams, they did what they're supposed to do, but couldn't get any help. So I'll say the team as a whole as my duds. Atlanta, Desmond Ridder, what happened? Like, you thought maybe you could get a little bit things going here, but they weren't able to do anything. So, and that whole thing was just, crazy. And I'll say my good grief. Let's see. There's so many to choose from. I'll say the Packers just because they were very, like, that offense. I know it's growing pains, but come on. Like, really? Seriously? So, those are my duds.
All right. And tonight's Monday Night Football contest will feature the Las Vegas Raiders visiting Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions. You can watch that game tonight at 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time on ABC and ESPN. This will be the Lions' first Monday night home game since 2018 when Sam Darnold made his debut in the Jets uniform. Whereas if you remember, the Jets blew out the Lions that day, scoring 48 points.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think things would be a little bit different tonight.
Just a tad different tonight. I know they're going to be excited. I know they're going to be excited. I know they're going to be rocking that Ford Field for that. So should be a good one coming up tonight. But yes, that is your schedule for the NFL Week 8. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead. You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. We're gonna go to the hardwood as a mixed weekend for the Bulls and also the rest of the NBA slate this weekend. We'll also talk some college football, and a game 3 of the World Series is tonight. It should be very interesting, a very pivotal game 3, I should say. So all that and a whole lot more still. The Keenan McGee
to be tied.
Yes. Keenan McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. ABA talk coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
earn the title United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
And welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. You can follow Kim McGee on the Twitter, X and Kim's coming in the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. We have less than 50 minutes left or so of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, live and on demand on Roku TV.
All right, so the mixed bag for the Bulls.
Let's start out with the good first.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, they did, hold off Toronto 104-103 in overtime. Again, they were up, but then they were down. They were up again, then they were down again. So, a little bit of credit there, but they were able to come back and win it. Alex Caruso was sort of the man of the hour those last few minutes in overtime. So that was a great win for them, and just kind of like exercising those demons. I guess they were able to they've had Toronto's number recently, so that was really nice to see. Now on the flip side, though, in Detroit a day later, you could probably say that maybe because they had they spent a lot of injury in that Friday game. But they just weren't able to get it together against Detroit on Saturday. They lose to them 118-102. Kate Cunningham, 25 points leading the way for the Pistons. This is despite Zach LaVine in the losing effort had his career high 51 points. But we'll get to all that in a second. But unfortunately, Sid, he was the only one that was really contributing a lot in that game on Saturday against Detroit. Patrick Williams, 0 points, 0 for 3 from the field. DeMar did what he could, 20 points. Vooch had his struggles, 20 points. Also, Kobe White was also 0 for. You can't do that if you're trying to get to that top 6, that top 5, 6 to 10 range. You don't need to do that. So for me, this is not what you want if you're a Bulls, but not have the inconsistency all season long. And it might be time to sit P. Will. Excuse me.
Well, it's just stole the question out of my head, but I'll ask it anyway, especially to our viewers and listeners out there watching us on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. And give us your answer. Is it time for Patrick Williams to be yanked out of the starting lineup? Lakeena, around this time last week, I asked you in our panel the question, when will it be time for Patrick Williams to be out of the starting lineup in place of Torrey Craig? I said toward the end of the season, but it may be that time, Lakeena. I know they have the game tonight at Indianapolis, and we'll get into that in just a second. But what I saw out of P. Will over these last 2 games, it's not been good. And I know some people wanted to point out when you mentioned with the overtime win last Friday night against Toronto, he just got up and walked out into the locker room without celebrating with the rest of his teammates. But I don't want to make too much of a big deal of that. But whatever, if that's his demeanor, so be it. But the way that he's been playing, as I said before, it's confidence issues with him, and if he can't be confident enough to play on this team, it's time for him to sit down and come off the bench. I think that's the best role for him anyway. So Torrey Craig, I know he didn't contribute with the points on Saturday in Detroit. not too many others who came off the bench in that game on Saturday in Detroit. Yeah, but Caruso and Torrey Craig brought the energy off the bench, and that's how the Bulls kind of stayed in the game for a while outside of Zach LaVine's hot shooting. But it's time for P. Will. Of course, Billy Donovan's going to give him tonight, I assume, against the Pacers. But if he doesn't show anything tonight, he can score 20 points. But if he doesn't make that crucial rebound or that crucial block or that crucial assist, should the game be close tonight against the Pacers, he's out of the starting lineup, period.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that apparently, I guess, if you believe some of the rumors, that he wants $200 million contract. You gotta play like you gotta earn it, dude. So, yeah.
Yeah, that extension that he didn't get, if that's affected him, shame on him.
Yeah,
you just gotta get over and play.
Yeah, this could be a opportunity to kind of show people why you deserve that extension, and stomping your feet and not wanting to celebrate with your teammates and not being productive. That's not going to endear you to not just the Bulls, but the other team that you may want to try to get that extension from and get that big money. You're not going to get it, so let your play do the talking, and perhaps maybe see okay, I may want to get this guy maybe 150, 180 million or something like that. So far, you're not showing that you deserve that contract, dude. So you need to get it together, or else this could get away from you really quick. So I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah. Now, is that the only problem for the Chicago Bulls right now? No, they're trying to get used to this new offensive philosophy of taking more 3-point attempts, which they have been doing. But as we talked about last week, Lakeena, there's a difference between a volume of shots, taking quality shots within the floor of the offense, and then just forcing up stuff. And in my opinion, that's what I thought they were doing the first couple of games, forcing up 3-point shots to prove to people, yeah, we can take 3-point shots. But if it's not in the floor of the offense, then it's going to be a problem. Now, in their victory last Friday night against Toronto, they only shot 20% from three. They didn't do that much better last Saturday against Detroit. So I'm trying to pull up the numbers here if they will let me. But outside of Zach LaVine, the rest of the team didn't do look great. I know, now, of course, they did better with the 3-point shooting at 42.5%. Of course, majority of that was thanks to Zach LaVine. He shot it 7 times out of 13 attempts that he made his percentage there. But the Bulls, like I said before, they got to find that balance of when to take them and then see what you're going from there. But the ball has to move around the offense, especially through Nikolai Vucevic, which I thought they tried to do last Saturday, but he missed some close-in shots. And outside of Zach LaVine, you really didn't get much help. DeMar DeRozan, I know he had 20 points for the game, but where we're seeing the fourth quarter. And I'm the only one that noticed that.
Yeah, he kind of disappeared in the fourth quarter. So yeah, I mean, they had the Bulls had their shot perhaps maybe come back and perhaps even win the game, but they weren't able to do that. I think they got it down to something like 7 or 8 or something like that. But I think
they got it down to 4 at one point.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Cade Cunningham missed a couple, got a couple of big shots, and a couple of guys missed some key shots. So that way they were able to it got back up to 9 pretty quick. So unfortunately, they weren't able to capitalize on that. So. Hopefully they can get together tonight against the Pacers. I know the Pacers are 2-0 right now. They've been playing very well. They've got a really nice squad over there. Rick Carlisle got a deserved a new extension. We'll see. They've get to the playoff. They've missed the playoffs or get even into the play in the last couple of years. So we'll see. They can kind of get it going tonight. I'm talking about the Bulls. This could look they can kind of try to at least try to right the ship here, and we'll see what happens here. It's just like Sports on Chicago. Lakeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Going to the games from this past weekend. Last night, I actually got a chance to watch this game because the Bears game was just yucky. But the
trash.
Kings, well, that's one way to put it. Kings beat the Lakers 132-127. De'Aaron Fox, I think he got hurt at the end of the game. He did avoid serious injury, so that's good news there if you're a Kings fan. LeBron did shoot a 3 to kind of help, tie things up, force overtime. AD had 30 points. LeBron had 27. But also too, I guess on the flip side for the Kings, they made the big shots when they needed to. Like I said, De'Aaron Fox, despite the injury, had 37 points. Made some big shots. They had Malik Monk made a couple of big shots to kind of put the game away for the Kings as well.
Yeah, you said that it was all needed to be said about this game last night. As I'll mention, they got that bad quote unquote Bears football taste out of my mouth. It was an exciting game, including the overtime. But you mentioned for the Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox, a first-time All-Star from last year. He really showed leadership by coming back into the game. Thank goodness it wasn't as serious. If you saw him after the game, his teammates helped him off into the locker room, not putting any more weight than he had to on that ankle. But as you mentioned, Malik Monk, who I thought should have been a candidate for Sixth Man of the Year last year, the former Laker from 2 seasons ago, he stepped up big in overtime. Don't forget about Kevin Huerter as well, the former Atlanta Hawk. He had a couple of big three-point shots, including one to basically seal it at the end of overtime. So the Kings, as I talked about on our preview show last week, will they be for real or for Gazy? Even though Domantas Sabonis was in foul trouble last night, the Kings, even though it's early in the year, they're 2-1 right now. It looks like they're going to be for real. And what they did last year was not a fluke. But even though it's still early, the Kings are still strong to start off this year.
Yeah, I think, like I said, give me a couple games before I figure out that, okay, this Kings hit could be for real. So they did beat the Lakers yesterday. They kind of even the season for them, but we'll see what happens. Now, say in the LA market, the Clippers have been playing very well, kind of quietly. They pound the Spurs 123, 83. They're 2-1 right now. I'm talking about the Clippers. So, Kawhi had 21 points, leading the way for them. And look, it's going to be very interesting to see how much this new low management rule is going to be the thing. Paul PG had 19, Russell Westbrook also had 19. So it did, their big three kind of like contributed a lot for them. But this whole new low management, we'll see how many games Kawhi plays this year.
Yeah, and the Spurs got out physical by the Clippers. The Clippers had the nerve to play bully ball with Victor Wembanyama. I know he's the rookie and all, but good grief! But we'll see what happens with the Clippers. As you mentioned, they're off to a nice start at 2-1. But we'll see if those guys can stay healthy. They're talking about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. The 76ers beat the Trail Blazers yesterday, 126-98 with no problem. Joel Embiid 35 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. As the Sixers after losing last Thursday night at Milwaukee in their season opener, they have now won 2 in a row. The Milwaukee Bucks lose to the Atlanta Hawks 127-110 at home. Trae Young 20 points, 11 assists. Damian Lillard 6 points, which is of course a season low and a career low. Giannis Antetokounmpo led Milwaukee with 26 points and 11 rebounds. Steph Curry rocked the Golden State Warriors to a 106-95 win over the Houston Rockets. Curry with 24 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. And the Denver Nuggets destroyed the Oklahoma City Thunder on the road, 128-95. Nikola Jokic, 28 points, 14 rebounds.
Going back to the Hawks-Bucks game, apparently, I guess, Flavor Flav sung the national anthem. I don't know why people were so shocked that it sounded exactly how you would think, Flavor Flav's, singing the national anthem would sound like. I don't know why people were so surprised, by that. We've heard worse, so.
I saw a clip of that on social media, but I thought it was a joke.
No, apparently he did it before the game. I guess he probably says probably why James, was like 1 for 9 or something like that from the field. So maybe that's why. I don't know. But yeah, just a little titty there. But going to the Saturday night's matchups, of course, you had Phoenix, beating Utah 126-104. And look, I know that that whole thing with them not with Beal and Booker not playing the Lakers on Friday, but they didn't play on Saturday either. But they did, Katie did get some help, 26 points for him, but Eric Gordon kicked in 21, so he got a little bit of help there for them. And Grayson Allen, of all people, had 17 points, which is right up there with a season high for him.
Yeah, it's all about the reserves for this Phoenix Suns, as you mentioned, the top 2 guys being out. They're going to need those guys later on in the year, and heaven forbid that those 2 guys, or Kevin Durant gets injured, they'll be in trouble heading towards the playoffs. But right now, you want to get those reserves in some time to get some experience, get their feet wet, because we all know that the regular season is a 6-month-long journey. So you need other guys to contribute, especially when nights when your superstars don't have it together. So Eric Gordon is really going to help out that Phoenix Suns team, especially he can still drive it to the basket, but you got him mostly for 3-point shooting from the outside.
Miami, fall to 1-2. They lose to the T-Wolves 106-90, and so definitely some struggles, I guess. The crowd over in Minnesota kind of gave Jimmy Butler kind of a what for. He actually did not play, yesterday. I mean, on that Saturday game, though, so I can kind of wonder why maybe that was a contributing factor there. But on the flip side, though, for the T-Wolves, I mean, we've been saying this about Anthony Edwards. He had 19 points leading the way for them, so that was a definitely nice win for them, and 25 points off the bench for one Mr. Nas Reed. Was definitely a career high for him. So not a bad showing, but like I said, I mean, the Heat have actually had their struggles early on this year.
For the Minnesota Timberwolves, I know many people expect them to take the next level. They did make it to the playoffs last year before getting bounced in the first round by the now eventual champion Denver Nuggets. But the key for me for the Minnesota Timberwolves team this year is health, i.e. Karl Anthony Towns. I know he had a nice dunk on Saturday night, but if he stays healthy, the Minnesota Timberwolves could stay out of that play-in tournament, but there's still a long way to go there for that team in the Western Conference. The Philadelphia 76ers, as I mentioned earlier, they're now on the 2-game winning streak. They won their first game of the year on last Saturday, beating the Toronto Raptors 114-107. Scotty Barnes led Toronto with 24 points. Joel Embiid had 34. Thumbs up to the Toronto Raptors organization before the game. They gave current head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, Nick Nurse, who was the ex-head coach of the Toronto Raptors, who led them to the World Championship in 2019. They gave him a nice video tribute, and the fans gave him a standing ovation.
That was really nice for that. Like I said, they're 2-0. They beat Cleveland 125-113. The Pelicans beat the Knicks 96-87. The Wizards upset the Grizzlies 113-106. Now going into Friday's game, like I said, Steph showing a little bit of that fountain of youth. He had 41 points as the Warriors beat the Kings 122-114. He made some big shots as of late, so a really nice showing by him. Orlando beat Portland 102-97. Utah beats the Clippers 120-118. That was actually a pretty exciting finish to that game. Dallas beat Brooklyn 125-120. San Antonio in overtime, but they got past Houston 126-122. OKC beat Cleveland 108-105. Boston beat Miami 119-111. Knicks beat Atlanta 129-120. And of course, Denver beats Memphis 108-104. So pretty interesting games for on Friday night.
Yeah, I want to go back to that Brooklyn-Dallas game. Lakeena, Luka Doncic came up big with 49 points, 10 rebounds. He was 3 assists shy of recording a triple-double. Cam Thomas on the flip side for Brooklyn did it again, back-to-back 30-point games. He had 30 points and 7 rebounds for the Nets. The Nets drop another game. But Lakeena, as I think we talked about this during our preview show last week, I want to see how Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving work out as they get one full year together, because that Mavericks team is still a good team, but how is that situation going to work out with Luka and Kyrie for a full season?
To be continued with that one. That should be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, I got to say, though, to Denver's credit, they actually, looked really good so far. They're undefeated right now. We'll see if they can kind of keep it up, but it'll be interesting to see, especially as the season goes on, will it be a little bit more like wear and tear, because they're no longer the hunters now. They're not a hunted, so you got to wonder, how our teams are going to respond to that. So that's what I'm looking forward to these next few weeks. So we'll see what happens here.
Real quick, Lakeena. Lakeena. Shout out to ESPN for Friday. Telecast of the Miami-Boston game. They had the all-female crew with Beth Mowins at play-by-play, Doris Burke doing the color analyst, and of course, Chicago's very own Cassidy Hubbard roaming the sidelines.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really cool, and I really like that.
Yeah.
They actually did a really nice job. Well, we know Beth Mowins. We know she can do it, so that was a really nice showing for them as well. Also, too, real quick before we talk about the schedule, they actually released the in-season tournament of how the floors are going to look. The Bulls floor looks really red. And some of the other ones, I know that Boston's look pretty green, and the Lakers, a lot of yellow in that for the
yes.
Lakers. So you get a chance to see which ones did you kind of stuck out to you?
Like I said, the Bulls one looks nice. I think Portland takes the cake for me. If you saw it, I think he had Rip City in front of the
Rip City right
on the center court. Yeah, like I said, Boston look nice as well. And I want to see what these uniforms are going to look like, because from what I read over the weekend, these teams are going to have special uniforms as well to commemorate the inaugural year of this play-in tournament. I know we'll get into a little bit more on Friday as it starts, but just for a friendly reminder, every Tuesday, every Friday, starting this Friday, the NBA is going to have in-season tournament games. Yes, it will count towards your regular season record. And, of course, the first week of December, I think the first week of December, I forgot the dates, but you'll have the semifinals and the final games in Las Vegas.
Oh, boy. Let me just see how this is going to turn out for teams, especially if you make the semifinals and the final. Like, how is that going to be schedule-wise? So, I don't know. It's a little bit weird. Now, going to the regular schedule here, starting tonight, you got Brooklyn and Charlotte at 6 o'clock. Of course, Bulls and Pacers also at 6. Boston and Washington, Minnesota and Atlanta, Portland and Toronto, Dallas and Memphis. That should be interesting. And Milwaukee and hosting Miami. We'll see if Milwaukee can bounce back from last night's struggles against Atlanta.
Finishing up the schedule for tonight, Monday, the NBA TV doubleheader looks like this. The first game will feature the Golden State Warriors visit New Orleans as they'll face the New Orleans Pelicans and Zion Williamson and crew. Also at 7 o'clock, we'll have Detroit at Oklahoma City, Utah at Denver at 8 o'clock. In the second half of the NBA TV doubleheader for tonight will feature the Orlando Magic at the Los Angeles Lakers at 9:30.
Tuesday, tomorrow, Halloween. You got the Knicks and the Cavs, the first game at TNT Tuesday doubleheader. You got Victor Wembanyama against Kevin Durant as the Spurs face the Suns. The second half of that TNT doubleheader, and Orlando facing the Clippers at 9:30.
Wednesday's lineup looks like this: Portland at Detroit, Milwaukee at Toronto, Washington at Atlanta, Indiana at Boston, Brooklyn at Miami, Cleveland at the Knicks at MSG. And the first game of that Wednesday night doubleheader on ESPN will feature New Orleans Pelicans visiting the Oklahoma City Thunder. You also have the Charlotte Hornets visiting Houston Rockets, a game between two young teams. Denver will take on Minnesota. The Chicago Bulls will visit the Dallas Mavericks. Memphis will visit Utah. Sacramento will play Golden State again for a second time in a week. No De'Aaron Fox for that game if you're a Kings fan. And the second half of that Wednesday night doubleheader on ESPN will feature the Clippers and the Lakers for the first time this season.
Ooh, that should be a fun one. Kawhi.
Right, it may be the only time both these teams would be healthy. So
yeah, exactly. You might see this.
Let's cross our fingers.
At full straight reveal to the playoffs, they face each other, so that's going to be hilarious. Thursday, you got Toronto and Philadelphia, the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader. Detroit and New Orleans, Orlando and Utah, and San Antonio and Phoenix for the second half of that NBA TV doubleheader. And that's your schedule for this week in NBA. And we'll talk about the schedule for the tournament and such, coming up on Friday.
Yeah. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. Thank you for hanging out with us. Sid Lakeena here with you. The World Series, the 2023 edition, is fit to be tied, as Lakeena mentioned a while ago. Game 3 is tonight from the hot desert in the state of Arizona, and we'll get into the key games from the last weekend's Week 9 edition in college football and a whole lot more. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago. Stay right there.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find McGee McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kids Come Again, the IG.
We got less than a half hour left of this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, especially during our last break of the show for today, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, you got a pivotal Game 3 coming up tonight as both the Rangers and the Diamondbacks are tied at 1. And I don't think anybody really saw that come, or maybe it did, who knows, but it'll be Matt Scherzer versus Brandon Platt. So it's going to be interesting to see, what goes on tonight and which team, which sort of like game is set in the mindset is. Look, they got Aldis Garcia got that, that walk-off home run, which was the first, since the 1988 walk-off with Kirk Gibson, for the Dodgers. And of course, on the flip side, in Game 2, the Diamondbacks kind of jumped on the Rangers and didn't really look back. So this is, I don't want to say that this is a pivotal Game 3. Maybe that might be a good word for it. But the person who, the team who wins Game 3, when a series is tied after 2 games, about like 70% of the time they go on to win the World Series. So this probably is a pivotal Game 3 tonight.
I don't think it's too far-fetched to make this argument, Lakeena, that the Arizona Diamondbacks should be leading this series 2-0. Here's why. They did what they had to do. We talked about this last week during our preview segment. They run the bases hard. They are aggressive on the base paths. They hit and run better than anybody in these playoffs so far. And they play great defense. And their bullpen has been surprisingly good as well. The only thing that failed them, Lakeena, last Friday in Game 1 was their bullpen, and Sewald gave up that two-run tying home run to Corey Seager, because you mentioned with Adolis Garcia what he did in that next inning to walk it off. But in Game 2, that was the Arizona Diamondbacks. For those of you that haven't watched them during these playoffs, the way that they played last Saturday night is the way that they've been playing throughout these whole playoffs. They were aggressive on the base paths. They got great starting pitching from Merrill Kelly in Game 2, 7 innings pitched, 9 strikeouts. He's that workhorse. No matter what anybody says, we talk about Zach Gallen all the time, Lakeena. He struggled a little bit in Game 1, but kind of settled in a little bit, even though the Diamondbacks gave him the lead at the time. But the way that the Diamondbacks had played in Game 2, they left it all on the field because they let one get away in Game 1 last Friday. They dominated the Rangers in Game 2. So you could make the case that the Diamondbacks should be up 2-0 in the series. But as we said before, when we gave up our predictions, I did have the Rangers in 6. The Diamondbacks will not go away. This will be a long series. Like you said, I don't think it's a pivotal game for them tonight, even though they'll be back home. But you definitely want to send a message if you're the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight at home, even though the pressure is going to be on them. You definitely want to send a message tonight. Even if they lose, as long as they don't get blown out, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean the thing with that, this Game 3 is, like I said, if you're the Rangers, you want to try and okay, you know what, you didn't play well on Friday and Saturday, I should say. And look, for me, I think this is definitely going to be one of those things where, like I said, I don't want to say it's pivotal, but you don't want to be down 2-1, especially on the road. So you better try at least, see if you can win at least one of these games in Arizona. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like this is going to be one of those things where we'll see. I mean, look, if Max Scherzer, we get the Max Scherzer we've seen before during the playoffs, then hey, look, the Rangers should be able to win this game and perhaps maybe try to take control of the series. If we see the Scherzer we've seen the last couple of times in the playoffs where he came with 6 or 7 home runs and even make it past the 3rd inning, this could be another long one. So, for me, I think, look, you play with house money if you're the Diamondbacks. Look, you've been surprising folks all playoff long. I'm wondering what's going to happen here, but yeah, I kind of feel like, again, this is going to be one of those things, this series, where it could come down to perhaps maybe the offense. And if you're at the pitching, look, Max Scherzer should say why he's one of the top pitchers, in the league still.
I just saw something on my monitor that Max Scherzer is dealing with a cut in his right thumb, and so we'll see what the Rangers can do. I'm sure they're going to do so between now and 7:00 Chicago time tonight for Game 3. So you mentioned this is pressure is on Texas, especially as you mentioned the way that they played, and the pressure is going to be on Max Scherzer to see what he has left in the tank, because he didn't pitch toward the end of the regular season because he was on the IL. He barely saw action in the last series. We'll see what happens tonight as he gets to start. I think if you Bruce Bochy, you kind of have to have him on the pitch limit. If the game is close, you let him pitch deep into the 5th and 6th inning. As you mentioned, if it gets out of hand like it did the other night, you pull him.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what they may. We'll see if look. I mean, this is going to be very interesting. We'll see if this kind of we'll see by the time we come back. I mean, will be someone trying to clutch? Will someone will? This is going to be very interesting to see what happens here with this whole thing, because for me, I think this is going to be pivotal. So that's going to be this whole thing is going to get I don't know. I mean, this World Series is actually going to be even more interesting. I have the Raiders at 6. I'm going to stick with that. So I know our girl Christine had a gentleman's sweep for the Rangers. We'll see if that's the case. It is a 2-2-1-1 format. So
no, it's 2-3-2.
It's 2-3-2. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong scheduling here, but let's see. Oh yeah, so we got because after tomorrow's game, they don't play again until Saturday, till Friday, I should say. So they're still going to be in Texas. So we'll see if we come back. Will we be previewing will we congratulate someone on winning, or will we be previewing a pivotal Game 6? We'll see. All these games will be on Fox Sports, on the big Fox network, I should say. Yeah,
we will be previewing a Game 6 by the time we get back here on Friday. That's my prediction. So, like you said, the World Series Game 3 is on tonight, 7:05 Central Standard Time on Fox, as the World Series now shifts to this great state of Arizona as the Rangers face off against the Diamondbacks with the best of 7 series tied up at 1. You're listening to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in the Living Color Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakeena hanging out here with you. We still have some time left, and we'll jump into the world of college football. I know we got some things to discuss. Lakeena, Week 9. I'll start with Colorado and UCLA. As I know, you feared that this game would turn out to be a blowout. It kind of was, even though the final score didn't reflect it. But Colorado did play better in the first half, as I predicted, Lakeena, but UCLA showed itself in the second half, scoring 21 points, including 14 of those in the fourth quarter with the 28-16 win. And Mr. Garbers for UCLA had 2 touchdown passes in his interception, 269 passing yards. But it was T.J. Harden who had 20 carries for 78 yards in the crucial touchdown for the UCLA Bruins.
I mean, I didn't watch too much of this game, but it kind of went as I expected. I mean, look, did Colorado hang in there with UCLA? They did, but like I said, I mean, UCLA is just a better squad right now. And if you heard Chip Kelly after the game, he did give kudos to Shedeur Sanders and the rest of that program. So that was a nice showing by them. And look, with all the hoopla, I'm sure now Colorado's gonna be struggling to even make it to a bowl game. So they got about a few weeks left. They can kind of figure it out. But nice win for UCLA because they did that win more than Colorado did, if you want to use that term. Now going to the annual meeting in Jacksonville between Florida and Georgia. Georgia wins again, 43-26. Carson Beck is getting a little bit more comfortable in his first Jacksonville meeting, if you will. I can't see the cocktail party anymore, obviously. But
well, you can. It's our show.
Passing yards and 2 TDs. DeJuan Edwards had 2 rushing TDs for them. Graham Mertz on the flip side for Florida had 2 TD passes, but Georgia just showing you why you thought that maybe some people thought that maybe Michigan should be number 1. I think Georgia kind of shows you why that we're number 1. We're not giving it back, at least not right now. So nice showing for them. Ohio State pulled away from Wisconsin 24-10. Florida State, no trouble with Wake. A lot of people thought it was going to be a trap game for Wake. It wasn't. 41-16 for them. Washington, been an interesting adventure for Washington lately. They beat Stanford, but they got all they can handle from the Cardinal, 42-33. Michael Penix Jr. threw for 369 yards and 4 TDs. Ashton Daniels had 367 yards and a TD for them, but the defense for Washington gave up a lot of yards, 228 rushing yards. Alik Asamnor had 146 receiving yards, leading the way for them. So Washington showed a little bit of cracks in the last few weeks after that win against Oregon.
I want to ask you a question about Washington, and I have a question for you for Florida State in a second, but I'll start with Washington. Given Washington's struggles the last couple of weeks, do you still consider them as an outside contender to get into that college football playoff? They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country when Michael Penix Jr., but do you seriously consider them to be a contender for that college football playoff?
Well, I'll tell you the team they beat is probably more of a contender than they are at this point in the last 2 weeks. We'll get to them in a second. But, I think Washington, they got a tough schedule to finish up the season. They play USC on Saturday. We'll talk more about that on Friday. But, I mean, Washington, I know the first rankings will come out in tomorrow. We'll talk about it on Friday, but the first playoff stands will be revealed tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if Washington is just on the outside looking. If Oregon's kind of breathing down, if they're like Washington at 5, Oregon at 6, or something like that. However they calculate this. So I think Washington. I wouldn't put them up there just yet. Let them finish out their schedule. Of course, they got a tough schedule coming up to finish up the season. So, I'll get to that in a second, but let's go to Oklahoma and Kansas. Kansas beat Oklahoma 38-33 after a little over an hour lightning delay, so they had to wait that out. Oklahoma, they were up, they thought that maybe they were going to take control. Kansas, their credit, they came back. This actually breaks an 18-game losing streak for Kansas against Oklahoma. It was the longest active streak against any opponent in the AP era. And also, too, it also is the Jayhawks' first win over an AP top 10 team since 2008 when they won the Orange Bowl, and they had lost 19 straight against a top 10 team. They actually had not won against Oklahoma in Lawrence since 1997. So, Oklahoma. Look, I don't know what happened with Oklahoma. You thought that maybe they were. Of course, I think the FS1 had to finish this game too because they didn't want to cross over, but. Jason B, came on 218 yards, had 2 early interceptions to be able to bounce back from that, and he actually led them down the field to get the game-winning rushing TD from Daniel Hishaw Jr. So that really, kind of, set the tone for that, and they were able to hold off Oklahoma.
I'm not going to sit here and say I predicted the Kansas upset, Lakeena, but didn't I give a caution to the win about this game on Friday?
Trap game. You said trap game.
And that's what happened. Oklahoma could only total up 12 points in that second half, as you mentioned, with Kansas quarterback Mr. Jason Bean. He came up big when he had to, even though he had the 2 early turnovers. But for Oklahoma, I'm not going to sit here and say that cost them the spot in the national of college playoff. But if they win the remainder of their games, and if they find themselves on the outside looking in, this is going to be the game they point to.
This could be a loss that comes back to bite them in the butt after if they just miss out getting into the playoffs. So we'll see. It's still a lot to be decided here. Now, the team they beat, Texas. Malik Murphy with a nice showing for his first start, 170 yards, passing yards, and 2 TDs. Jonathan Brooks had 98 rushing yards and a TD as they were able to beat BYU pretty handily. A lot of people thought this was going to be a trap game for them at home in Austin, but that turned out to be the case, 35-6.
Yeah, Jonathan Brooks was the man of the hour for the Longhorns, carrying the ball 16 times for 98 yards in a touchdown. On the flip side for BYU, Mr. Slowest, Kadon Slowest had 197 yards passing and 2 interceptions. But you mentioned BYU can get going. That Texas defense was very impressive. They turned it around after having a lackluster performance the last couple of games.
Yeah, that was not a good, I think Texas really needed this win, especially with yours being out. Murphy, if you heard his story, he could have transferred after Arch Manning, came in. Also when yours transferred to Texas, but look, he stuck with it, and look, he got his opportunity, and look, so far, it looks really good. So we'll see if he can kind of keep it up. I'm sure. I think yours is going to be out for another couple more weeks, so it could be his team for at least for the next few weeks. Now, whenever I said a couple moments ago that they might, or Washington might have a shot at at being like the best team in the Pac-12. Well, you know what? Oregon just hammered Utah 35-6. Bo Nix threw for 240 yards and 2 TDs. Bucky Irving had a rushing TD, a rush for 83 yards, 136 passing yards for Bryson Barnes, but 2 interceptions. This is actually the 3rd time in Oregon history that they've held a ranked opponent to 6 points or fewer on the road. Last time that was against going back to 1989 at Iowa early in that season. I remember that game because that was a bad Raycon game. But they won 44-6, so that was brutal. But Oregon, after that loss to Washington, they've actually looked really good. So that kind of woke them up a little bit, that loss did.
I know Utah's missing their starting QB. He's out for the rest of the year. But on the flip side for Oregon with Bo Nix, who's up there as far as I'm concerned for the Heisman Award Trophy Award, he's completing just about close to 80% of his passes. I don't want to sound like a whiny, spoiled little kid, but that's not fair.
Yeah, well, hey, look, a veteran guy. Look, a veteran guy. Look, got weapons, and he's in a great system in Oregon. I don't know what else you can say about that, but look, Oregon might sneak in there and be in at least in the top 5 or 6, and nothing else. So, especially with Oklahoma losing, so they may switch places. So that's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens with that. Penn State made it interesting for a little bit against Indiana, but they were to pull away late, 33-24. Arizona upset Oregon State 27-24. I told you. Look, Arizona. Look, they gave USC a lot of fits. They gave them. They gave all they can handle as well. So they beat Oregon State 27-24. Ole Miss quietly beat Vanderbilt 33-7. Notre Dame no trouble with Pitt 58-7. UNC has lost 2 in a row. They lose to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's been a nice little run, 46-42. Louisville shut out Duke. Air Force stays undefeated. Tennessee held off Kentucky. We talked about UCLA. I guess Colorado. Tulane beat Rice. They needed a last-second stop to hold them off. USC, another game that was interesting. Failed 2-point per conversion, 50-49. Jesus. James Madison stays undefeated. They beat Old Dominion 30-27.
I want to go back to the USC Cal game. Caleb Williams only had 2 touchdown passes off of 369 yards of passing offense. But we talked about this last year. Lakeena is reached this ugly head in the last month. The USC Trojans defense, not good. And I know some people want to Lincoln Riley to coach the NFL team next year. That's not happening, folks. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
Shout out. Yeah, I don't know who said that, but okay. Boston College beat UConn 21-14. Northwestern beat Maryland 33-27. Okay. Mike Locksley.
I told you, this might be a trap game for Maryland. Unfortunately, look what happened.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Locksley, losing to both Illinois and Northwestern, okay, that's not a good look for him. Houston shut out Kansas 41-0. SMU 69-10 over Tulsa. Those were old, like, Pony Express days from the early 80s. Memphis held off the Fighting Lady Raheem in North Texas 45-42. Minnesota beat Michigan State. Nebraska beat Purdue. Miami needed overtime, but they held off Virginia. Iowa State, they're getting it together. They beat Baylor 30-18. Let's see here. Boise State upset Wyoming 32-7. Arizona State beat Washington State. And Oklahoma State 45-13, I should say, over Cincy. And don't look now. They're actually up there with Texas and Oklahoma for the top of the Big 12. They're 6-2 right now, and I know they lost it. They had a rough early start, but look, Alan Bowman's one of the pass the ball very well. Ollie Gordon, 272 rushing yards and 2 TDs, probably one of the best rushing guys in the country you probably have not seen. They play the Bedlam. They're meeting next week. So Oklahoma State, they might sneak in there past, maybe not necessarily in the college football playoff, obviously, but definitely in the Big 12 standing. So they're kind of like, very quietly.
I want to go back to the Big Ten, Lakeena, and focus in on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. This is their first 3-game winning streak since 2016. I think it's about time to give Matt Rule some credit here.
Yep.
I know they struggled to start off the year. They got beat down by Colorado, which I believe was the second game of the year, second or third game of the year. But ever since then, they solved their QB issues, and they have taken off ever since. They're 5-3 overall, 3-2 in the Big Ten. I'm not comparing them to what Illinois did last year, but can you see this team having a strong finish and maybe sneaking in a spot in the Big Ten title game, or am I just dreaming?
No. They got a shot. Look, the last few games were very winnable. They've got Michigan State on Saturday. They played Maryland.
That should be a win.
Yeah, they play Maryland, who's been struggling lately. They play Wisconsin at Camp Randall. That's going to be a tough match for them. And they get Iowa to finish up the year after Thanksgiving. Oh, that Friday after Thanksgiving. So
that's going to be tough.
Well, Iowa, especially the Iowa's been playing lately. Look, they're kind of quietly at 5-3, so they're kind of like, okay. And, they're starting to kind of figure things out. So I think for me, if you're, Nebraska, I mean, they had a tough loss against Michigan. They're right there at the top in that Big Ten West. Now, they do have to hope a lot of things has to happen around them in order to kind of have a shot, but they have a shot. I mean, look, they beat Illinois, so that helps them a lot. Beating Illinois, especially in that so the last four, well, it's also the Michigan State game. The last three of the last four are against Big Ten West opponents. So they're in fourth right now. Minnesota, they already played Minnesota already. They lost to Minnesota, so that might hurt them. But they're in the drivers here. Not talking about Minnesota is, but they could perhaps sneak there and make things interesting in that division.
Yeah, like you said, you don't know which Iowa team is going to show up, for that last game of the regular season. But if you're Nebraska, realistically, if you win 3 out of your next 4, you're right there. And like you said, the loss with Minnesota may come back to bite them in the butt. It depends on how the other teams do ahead of them. But they have a chance to finish no worse than 8-4, which let's be honest, no one expected that at the start of the year.
Especially after that tough first couple openers. So yeah, they're kind of getting their going, they're finding their groove. So yeah, I think Matt will definitely should get a little bit of credit, especially if they end up finishing having 8 or 9 wins and go into a good bowl game. So yeah, if you're Nebraska, gotta be feeling pretty good about it should that happen. Now Florida State, I know you said that they play Pitt this weekend. They have Miami, North Alabama out of conference, and they have Florida after that to finish up the year. So yeah, they could definitely perhaps beat all 5 of these games. 4 games, I should say, are very winnable. So I can see perhaps maybe sneaking in there, especially in the playoff, especially how it works out in the ACC championship game. Whether it's Louisville, I know North Carolina's still up there, even though they lost 2 in a row in conference. I think they could probably have a shot practicing it in there. I think so, but a lot, it'll depend on what happens around it. But yeah, they definitely will make a case for being in the playoff, I think.
Yeah, and we talked about their star quarterback Jordan Travis. I think now he's starting to get some love nationally. As you just read out their schedule, he has that FSU team has a chance to finish strong. But is it time for really to people besides us two to pay him his respect as far as being a top 3 candidate for the Heisman Trophy?
I hope
I know
so.
Caleb Williams has fallen off the last 2-3 weeks, but Jordan Travis should be up there with Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr.
I definitely think he's definitely in that team photo. I think he's in the top 5 range. So yeah, I really think that he should be, especially if he does well against Miami and Florida. Those games definitely help him kind of get into that driver's seat. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, it's going to get very interesting, especially these last 4 weeks of the season. So for a lot of guys involved, especially with Michigan, I know those say maybe JJ McCarthy should be up there too in the Heisman race. So we'll know. Who knows? We'll see.
Going back to the Big Ten last Saturday night, Lakeena, of course, you mentioned Ohio State defeated Wisconsin by 2 touchdowns. But are you impressed by Kyle McCord? Do you have confidence in him going forward? I know his stats didn't look the greatest. He had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Marvin Harrison Jr., who should be a Chicago Bear next year, by the way. He had 6 catches for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. But how much confidence do you have in Kyle McCord going forward? Should Ohio State enter that college football playoff picture?
Yeah, I think he definitely should be in the picture. And I think, look, he's gotten a lot better talking about Kyle McCord. But remember, Marvin Harrison Jr. could probably say, hey, wait a second, I should be up there too. I've got, he's definitely like one of those guys where he had 6 catches and a touchdown in that win against Wisconsin. Second player, I don't say to have that in 4 straight games because Chris Carter did it many years ago back in '86. He should definitely be up there in that team picture for the Heisman race. And look, we'll see the rest of their schedule. I'll get their rest of the schedule up in a second. But I think for me, they have Rutgers this Saturday. They shouldn't really have any trouble with Rutgers, but they're 6-2. That could be a trap game for them. I know they play Michigan. They're in Michigan. It's an odd number year this year. Don't ask me how I know that. This is for years of watching this rivalry. They go at this year. They got Michigan State and Minnesota. They host both those teams in between, so they really shouldn't have any trouble with both of those schools, both of them. But again, I feel like Marvin Harrison Jr. They should definitely be in that team picture for the Heisman race, I think.
And I know you hate this team just probably more than I do. Hopefully Christine's not listening to the part of this program, but the 14th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they're 7-2 right now.
Nope.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. On that note.
They played Clemson. Let's talk about Clemson for a second.
4-4, 2-4 in ACC play. Kate Kaluma is not the answer. I know Dabo Swinney he can't wait for next year to come soon enough. But of course, that's when the college football playoff field will expand from 4 to 12. But Clemson's been on hard times the last couple of years. I was going to ask you, do you think that Clemson will ever recover? But given the stats I just said, what does Dabo Swinney have to do outside just getting a stud quarterback? Well, you think he'll stay with Kublin for next year?
Yeah, the NIL has really hurt Clemson. I didn't think it was going to hurt him that much, but we know how Dabo feels about those NILs. He's not very, and that's not going to endear to some of those top recruits. Some of those top recruits that were going to Clemson, like your Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne's. You go all the way back to Sammy Watkins and Taj Boyd, during that era. Deshaun Watson, withstanding. They're not getting those types of players anymore, and of course, Christian Watkins and something. Those guys on the defensive side, he's not getting those type of players anymore. And with the NILs, that's been a great equalizer. Look, Alabama, Nick Saban, I know he hates it, but I'm sure he's been able to work his way around it. And a couple other guys as well, But unfortunately, Kirby Smart's been able to work around it. I think he's to figure that out. I'm talking about Dabo, and if not, things could go around. I know you got. Tony Elliott, Brent Venables, a lot of his assistants have gone elsewhere and found some success so far overall, but just not getting the players that he was getting a few years ago.
Yeah, it looks like some of these programs may be facing the same thing going forward with the NIL rule. I know we're about to wrap up here in a couple of minutes to close out the show, but I heard someone say on a national radio show over the weekend, Lakeena, that this person who has a famous LA sports anchor, and he also hosts the National Sports Weekend show. a radio show. He said that he's a Heisman Trophy voter, and he said that he had J.J. McCarthy as a top 3 candidate for the Heisman Trophy. Do you agree? I said that J.J. McCarthy had to do some big things this year, but I don't know if he's done enough to be in the top 3. Like I said, this is this guy's vote, and this is prerogative, but I don't know if he's done enough for me to be in that top 3, not just the other 3 quarterbacks that I mentioned a few moments ago.
Well, I think also too the scheduling hasn't really helped him. I think if he has a good show against Ohio State in a few weeks, I could probably see that. Maybe him can kind of sneak in there with that. I mean, but he's definitely in that second tier. I think I don't know if he's up there in that top 3 or 4 or 5, but he's definitely, if you go in the second tier, he's definitely up there. And I think, look, he's been really good lately. He hasn't made any mistakes. I think it was like 2 interceptions this year. So for me, for Michigan, like I said, for me, I think the schedule really has kind of not helped him, especially with the stats. But like I said, I mean, they finish up, they got Purdue this week, after being off. They got Penn State. We'll see. Penn State and Michigan is going to be very key. They got Penn State after that Purdue game. And of course, Ohio State taking to finish off that year, and is that Saturday after Thanksgiving. If he does well in those 2 matchups and they win, that might get him an invite to New York. I'm not saying he'll win it, but that might get him a New York invite.
All right, we'll see what happens with that. Excuse me. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, wrapping up the Monday edition of the program. We want to end this show on a respectful but somber note, as TV actor and film actor Matthew Perry passed away on last Saturday night in an accidental drowning. Accidental drowning. We don't know the actual cause of death just yet. The news will come out soon as far as that. Lakeena, when I heard the news, I was in shock. Of course, he was famous for being on the NBC TV sitcom Friends that aired from 1994 until 2004. But we talked about it before we started broadcasting live today. Of course, many of your superstar actors, they had humble beginnings. They did a lot of supporting roles in films and television before they got the big break. I remember Matthew Perry's debut on sitcoms back in the 80s with that special 3-part episode on Growing Pains that aired on ABC for many years. And he played Tracy Gold's, her character, Carol Seaver's boyfriend at the time. It was a drunk driving episode. She was riding with him in the car. He got into the accident. Of course, in the episode, he died. And Carol got her moment of she could have went along with him in terms of death on the TV show. But that was the first thing I thought about when I heard the news last Saturday night. I was like, wow, life is precious. I know he had his struggles with addiction throughout the years. And I saw a clip over the weekend as well that he was interviewed a year ago. And someone asked him, could you watch yourself in those old episodes of Friends? He said no, because he was a different guy back then.
Yeah, I hope he found peace, and because look, addiction, we both, I'm sure I know about you, so I've known people who've dealt with addiction. We have friends who
same here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dealt with addiction, so in various forms. So yeah, I mean, it stays with you. Unfortunately, you kind of have to, take it day by day. And I remember, like I said, that episode of Growing Pains. But also, I remember episode 90210 when he played a trouble, popular, jock who you thought that maybe, he was having some mental issues. You hope that wasn't a microcosm of what you saw was coming up. And of course, all the various movies that he did, Fools Rush In. And if you guys haven't not checked it out, it's on YouTube. Check out the Ron Clark story. If you guys know who Ron Clark is, he's a popular New York public school teacher. Matthew played that character. He was probably he played the role very well. And I know that Ron and his class did a nice little tribute for him. If you guys don't see it, check it out on his social media pages. That was a really sweet moment that they did for him. But yeah, I mean, look, I get where he's coming from about Perry when he said he can't see himself, watching some of the old episodes, because he wasn't that guy, and he was the same guy back then, the kind of like the cute, the goofy, cute, young guy. But now he was kind of like you start that. I know he said some things, during when he was promoting his book last year and earlier this year. Mm-hmm. And, it kind of makes you feel like, oh my gosh, I mean, you kind of like, oh God, you just want to give him a hug, and, mm-hmm. You hope it wasn't, drug related or anything like that. You just, I hope he was able to find peace at least, if nothing else.
Yeah, like I said, we don't want to speculate on what happened. He just that, like I said, people with addictions, period. I don't care what it is, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, it's nothing to play with. And like you said, it crosses all ethnic, racial, ethnic, economic, religious backgrounds. So, like you said, you have to take it day by day, and hopefully that person, whoever those people are, get the help that they need. But as far as Matthew Perry is concerned, he was a great talent. He made people laugh. And some people say he was the breakout star on that Friends show. People gave kudos to Jennifer Aniston. She was popular for a while. Also to Courtney Cox. And that was her research, because remember, she did some films and some other television shows for a while.
Family Ties.
Right. And you remember her also from back in the day. I'm talking about Courtney Cox. She was the dancing girl in that Bruce Springsteen video back in the day. I forgot what song it is. I can't remember.
Dance in the Dark.
Dance in the Dark. Yeah, thank you. But those kind of researches for her career as well. So, but Matthew Perry was the breakout star for many fans on that show. I particularly watched that show after the couple of seasons. We all know why. We did the Living Single salute to Old School TV Monday a few months ago. But Matthew Perry was a great talent, not only on the screen, but on your television sets as well. So he'll definitely be missed.
And so we want to send our thoughts and prayers to his parents and the rest of his. I think he had like 2 siblings and the rest of his family and friends and colleagues as they go through this difficult time. We remember Matthew Perry. Now, real quick, I don't want to end on a song. I want to end on a song. I want to a little bit more like upbeat. Leonard Williams has been traded from the Giants to the Seahawks. Of course, the veteran O lineman. The Giants received a 2nd round pick in 2024 and a 5th rounder in 2025. So that could definitely give them a little help in that O line for the Seahawks.
As you talked about before, Lakeena, with the San Francisco 49ers, with Trent Williams being out there, a star all-pro offensive lineman. San Francisco's having offensive line issues. Seattle bolstered up their defensive line. I don't think they played each other this year, have they?
No,
yet?
They haven't.
I don't think
they played in a couple.
So that's going to give the Seahawks a huge advantage when they play later on this season. So this is what contending teams do. You bolster up your chances to take the division and perhaps win the Super Bowl. I like this move that the Seattle Seahawks made.
And I want to pay off that tease I made earlier. I think Andy Dalton could be a great pickup for Minnesota, and perhaps maybe even either one of the New York teams, probably the Jets especially. So if you hear his name come up, in these next day or two, of course, if trade deadline coming up, tomorrow, you may hear his name pop up. We'll see.
One quick question before we close out: does Jalen Johnson get traded tomorrow? Call me crazy, I say no.
I don't think so. I don't think he does either.
Okay,
I'm with you. On that note, you can follow me, Keena McGee, on the Twitter, X, and Keena Square again, the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. Easy for me to say.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, don't forget to catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. Of course, just go to the Roku app. Well, we'll go to the App Store. Wherever you get your apps on the Roku, whatever device you got, type in Sports of Chicago, catch our show, the Smoke Fellas, Sean and Maya. What's up, cuz? I know Jason's going to be in a good mood tonight with his Dolphins winning. So you can catch Sports of Chicago anytime, anywhere.
All right, take us home.
All right, stay warm out there, folks. But actually, it's gonna be a great night tonight. As for I think like the 8th time in the last few years, you got both MLB, NFL, NBA and NHL all at the same on the same night tonight. So a nice little win for sports fans. So make sure you guys enjoy all the games that we got coming up. We'll see how the World Series fares when we come back here on Friday, and a whole lot more. For Sid, I'm Lakeena. Stay well there, folks. This is Executive Sports on Sports on Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Go D-backs, holla!
Oh boy, go Rangers!